And welcome back. We got a ton of political news coming out today. Mainly, the EU is trying to create a spy agency. Ursula von der Leyen wants her own CIA as the United States kind of pulls back from their FBI and CIA. The EU is moving forward. We kind of talked yesterday about the EU, not specifically the EU, but Germany debanking their biggest political opponent, which was the AfD. I'm sure if the spy agency comes about, it's not going to be so much to go after Russia like they're claiming, but to go after their own citizens, their own political party, and to build their own narrative. Let's get into the first story. I got my producer Nat over here.
Hello. From Euronews, is the EU spy unit about to become reality? Von der Leyen wants her own secret service.
Yeah, and von der Leyen is one of those people that just look like a supervillain every time she talks with her accent. She just looks evil. But let's get into the article here.
European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen wants to create an intelligence service using data from member states, aiming to expand its operational use and increase her influence, according to international media reports. European Commissioner von der Leyen plans to create this EU intelligence unit that would gather information from member states' national security services, according to media reports on Tuesday. The commission.
Yeah, and we're going to have to think, well, if she's gathering data from individual states, she's talking about individual citizens here, other political parties that they don't favor, like the AfD, like right-wing parties. They're getting this all in the guise of Russia, Russia, Russia. This is how they're winning, rigging their elections as of late. They're saying Russia's interfering with the election through social media, so we have to void that election, then we have to have it again. And they keep having these elections until they get the right candidate in place. They want to keep this war going and escalate it until Trump's out of office, it looks like.
The commission said the outfit would make better operational use of existing data, but EU diplomats view it as primarily an expansion of von der Leyen's power, FT newspaper reported.
Yeah, and the more power you give to the EU, the more you cede your power as an individual country. Italy, Spain, these countries will have less power. There'll be more authority given to the EU governance. They're trying to find more ways to bring money and power into the EU.
Senior EU diplomats criticized the plan, fearing dual structures and power struggles in Brussels, according to reports. Some diplomats worry the move could damage their influence and careers.
Yeah, I don't like this at all. I honestly think the EU needs to be disbanded. That way, each individual country will have actual sovereignty and can vote the way that they think. Right now, they're being manipulated by loans given from EU banks. And they're all having to vote in line. Very, very few EU countries will actually have the balls to vote out of line. Hungary is one of those countries, but they want to kind of get rid of Hungary at this point. I think Hungary would be happy not to be part of the EU. The problem is they have massive loans that the EU has kind of forced upon them. They're having to pay $1 million penalty per day for not taking illegal migrants, or legal migrants as the EU wants to call them. Okay, let's go into the X account, and there are some disenfranchised voices or some voices speaking up in the EU against von der Leyen, against a lot of these new EU policies. Poland seems to have a new leader, new parties on the rise, and they are massively unhappy with this.
From Lord Bibo, Polish MP Gregors Braun calls von der Leyen a Reichenführerin. She thinks she's some kind of rain whisperer, some sorcerer. She's dangerous, and she should be put in some madhouse.
Okay, and
his microphone was cut off because they couldn't tolerate the facts.
Yeah, and we will play the clip here in a minute, but it's good to see Viktor Orban finally getting some backup. So as more and more right-wing parties win elections in the EU, if they're not disvalidated by the EU, you're going to see a really Eastern Bloc kind of emerge and hopefully stand up to the EU, take their own sovereignty back as a couple countries are able to take more and more control and get more of their sovereignty back. You'll see more and more countries kind of stand up for themselves.
You've heard Madam Reichsführerin von der Leyen expressing once again her belief that by the insane policy of decarbonization, that is devastation and poverty, she really changes temperatures all over the continent. She thinks she's some kind of rain whisperer, some sorcerer. she's dangerous. She should be put in some madhouse instead of. This is my political diagnosis. This is my political recommendation.
You're not allowed to insult this person. I'd like to call you to order and use appropriate language in this chamber. Otherwise, I'll take the microphone away.
Madam Chair, once again, I couldn't hear the translation.
No, dicevo che
I was saying that either use appropriate language in this chamber or I'll remove the microphone. You cannot insult people in this institution the way you're doing. Please take the floor, but use appropriate language.
Please, Madam Chair, advise me which particular word that I used is inappropriate.
chiamato la Presidente von der Leyen.
You called President von der Leyen a Nazi. That's unacceptable. That's not possible.
I referred to her position here. I call her Reichsführerin von der Leyen because this is the way she executes the superpower that you gave her, which is wrong,
tolgo la
which is
parola,
deeply wrong.
Okay, I'm removing the microphone.
And he didn't call her a Yahtzee. He called her a Reichsführer, which, yeah, is similar. But von der Leyen is constantly saying things about her political opponents. She's going so far as to not only call them names, but to debank them and to collude with other parties within individual countries like Germany to debank their biggest political opponents. A political opponent against the left in individual countries is also an opponent against the EU. The EU is really falling apart when we have the rise of Trump. I don't know how much longer it's going to last. If a Democratic or a liberal government like a Gavin Newsom gets in the United States, I think the best they can do is kind of wait Trump out. We kind of see things falling apart a little bit on the right. The midterms are going to be a big determining factor whether they're going to be able to actually wait him out.
And Rafa says, hello, guy.
Good to see you. We went on a little bit early today, actually. We had a last minute appointment that came up, so I'm just glad I got on today. Okay, let's go into the next.
From Nick Sortor, President Trump has just signed an executive order boosting support for foster...
One moment. Go to the next article. I put him out of order, actually.
Okay, hold on then.
And this story comes from Poland as well. So you're seeing a lot of politicians in Poland standing up. There's a lot of national pride in Poland. They do not like the EU. They do not like the rules and regulations that are being put upon Poland, kind of taking the sovereignty away from the citizens, away from their elected official. These EU officials are completely unelected. And when the people disagree, there is no really recourse of action they can take except to stand up and burn EU flags like this.
Turning Point UK says Polish patriots burned the European Union's flag during their Independence Day march.
Well, and I'm glad to see Turning Point has a UK branch on the come up here.
Yeah, they've had it for a while, but hopefully it continues to grow more and more.
Suwerenność! Nie na sprzedaż! Suwerenność! Nie na sprzedaż! Suwerenność! Nie na sprzedaż! Suwerenność! Nie na sprzedaż! Suwerenność! Nie na sprzedaż!
And with digital currencies and digital IDs currently being implemented in the EU, they're in phase 1. They're going to roll out more and be more mandatory. Right now, they're not mandatory, but they're expected to be mandatory starting next year. A lot of people in the UK are being threatened. If they don't adopt a digital ID, they will lose their job. Posts like this are going all around X right now. It was supposed to be only for migrants. They're rolling it out to the whole population, and they're hoping it doesn't blow up on social media. That's why the EU is kind of starting this spy agency. They want to dictate to social media companies what is and is not appropriate in the EU so that they can roll out all these dictates they've been kind of planning. This 2030 agenda is quickly coming. It's now time for people to not only stand up in the EU, but all around the world if they want to keep their freedoms and live in a free world rather than a secure state. And this is kind of what we're seeing with these voter blocks. Women are voting for more and more security. And as they do, because they are the biggest voter bloc, we're getting more and more security and bigger governments with more control.
And Rafa says, we're about to see our baby in the ultrasound, but I'll be here until the doctor arrives. That's so cute. Oh, say hi from us to the baby. Speaking of babies, from
'Cause
next Sortor, President Trump has just signed an executive order boosting support for foster children who age out of the system. This is part of the First Lady's Fostering the Future initiative, which shares educational opportunities and scholarships for children in foster care.
Yeah, and this is absolutely fantastic. I almost made this the headline story. I don't know if it had enough click factor or it was going to hit people's hearts like it hits me. I was almost a foster child after my mother died at a fairly young age. I was lucky enough to immigrate to the United States for a while to live with my grandparents. So I could have very easily wound up in the foster system. I know a lot of people, as they get older in the foster system, they're kind of forgotten about. When a lot of kids get out of the foster system, about half of them end up homeless. So it's really good that the U.S. government kind of is being forced to raise these kids in foster care. Now they're looking to hand out scholarships and hopefully help them out as they become adults so they do not wind up on the streets. And this is actually really big. This is going to put a lot of money, financing, and really focus the government on that area. Good for Melania Trump for doing this. She often doesn't get the recognition she deserves. She's very often focused on kids of all ages in Russia and Ukraine. She worked with both governments to get children returned to their families if they can be found alive. So this is just this just continues on in that vein. I really wish Melania Trump would get a lot more credit for the things that she does. You see a lot of these other first lady doing things that really don't matter and getting all kinds of credit, being put on the covers of magazines and everything else. Okay, let's go into John Fetterman. And I've actually gained a lot of respect for John Fetterman over the years. A few years ago, he was absolutely hated when he was still together with his wife, who was a radical leftist trying to implement Marxist policies. I think that relationship ended. Oh, it didn't end.
No, they separated and then they got back together, I believe.
He's been, during that separation time, he seemed to get his senses back to him because he's been one of those few bipartisan Democrats that have reached across the aisle at times, but have stand his ground at other times. He lives in a purple state, so he's really forced to be a lot more moderate and think what is good for the people of the state if he wants to win re-election. He's been in really bad health lately. This is just continuing in that vein of bad health. He's no Nancy Pelosi, but he did have a stroke a few years ago.
From Benny Johnson, Senator John Fetterman has been transported to the hospital after taking a fall and hitting his face. He reportedly had a ventricular fibrillation flare-up, leading to lightheadedness.
Okay,
Pray
let's
for him.
play the clip real quick.
News for you from Senator Fetterman's team. During an early walk, he sustained a fall near his home. Out of an abundance of caution, he was transported to a hospital. Upon evaluation, it was established he had a ventricular fibrillation flare-up that led to him feeling lightheaded, falling to the ground, and hitting his face with minor injuries. Senator Fetterman, always in good spirits, always an optimist, quipped to his team, "If you thought my face looked bad before, wait until you see it now." And then he thanked the EMTs. Our prayers to Senator Fetterman. America Reports. News for you from Senator
and
Fetterman.
our heart kind of goes out to Fetterman there. We do hope he gets better. I mean, Hillary Clinton has to be rubbing her hands. They would have loved to replace him with somebody that's not bipartisan, that's really a left-wing nut. I don't know if they could get that in Pittsburgh, even if they tried. John Fetterman, even though he's a Democrat, he's one of those Democrats that you at least have some respect for, and you think that this administration is able to work with from time to time. Okay, let's go into this next article here.
From Eric Doherty, enormous victory, as the 70% of rare earths we get from China will plummet to 0% by the end of President Trump's term through domestic production and American jobs.
Yeah, and a lot of people are actually hitting the administration saying there's no way you'll be independent on rare earths. I happen to disagree with this. We'll take a look at this clip in just a moment, but this is the Department of War. So it's the military getting involved, nationalizing the industry, and really putting a fire up under the heels of the mining companies and other things like this, having a national strategy because it's of military importance that they do have rare earth minerals that are independent of China. Now, a lot of people may not know the United States does have actually quite a few rare earth minerals themselves. They just need to ramp up that production immensely.
Department of War. The Pentagon thinks that rare earths are so crucial that they just created a $400 million partnership with MP to lessen and, guys, eventually eliminate our reliance on China. An MP CEO tells me that is happening so fast. Listen.
Within the next 3 years, when we look at the expansion here at Independence, along with the 10X facility that we're bringing online, we will be able to satisfy essentially all of American demand, and we will have removed this issue off the table as a risk for American industry and the American people.
So the 70% of our rare earths that we get from China now will go to zero in the next 3 years. And how they're doing that is taking this facility now, tripling it in size to accommodate both General Motors and Apple. And when they're done, they're building an entirely new facility for the Pentagon. And because of this private-public partnership, because of this investment, everything that new facility makes, the Pentagon will buy for 10 years, guys.
Yeah, and with government money in the tune of $400 million, and that's just one investment they're making when it comes to rare earth minerals. Now, they're not going to get them at the cost they're getting them from China. They're not going to get them ultra cheap. They're going to have to pay American workers and American mines. It's going to cost more, but they're going to be able to cut off that strategic dependence on China for the rare earths. The military is the main consumer of rare earths in the United States, along with tech companies. The tech companies and the military are becoming closer and closer aligned because of AI and other things of that nature. Okay, let's go into China, Japan here, and this thing is heating up just a little bit. They're trying to put guardrails on China here.
From Marianafo, China to Japan's PM, retract or else over Taiwan comments. Beijing is not subtle this week. China just publicly blasted Japanese PM Sanae Taikachi, I can never say her name, for her egregious remarks in Taiwan and warned Tokyo it must bear all consequences unless she walks them back.
Yeah, and now there is a rumor that China has a plan not to necessarily go to war with Taiwan, but to blockade Taiwan from anything getting off of the island by boat. That would include chips. If that happened, Japan wants to make clear that would mean it's war. I'm sure they've already talked to the United States, and the United States probably has intelligence of a possible Chinese blockade. They want to cut that off so a blockade does not escalate to a full-on war. Stop the blockade before it happens.
So what did she say in Parliament? Takaichi stated the obvious but taboo: a Chinese attack on Taiwan could be a survival-threatening situation for Japan, language that legally opens the door to a military response under Japan's security laws.
Now, we have to realize what Japan has to gain from this. If Taiwan falls through a military strike from China that goes fast and furious, Japan will be next on the hit list. China absolutely despises Japan because of their long military history. Japan had invaded China before and millions had died. That will never be forgotten by China. China's main focus right now is Taiwan, but if Taiwan was wiped out or conquered back by China, Japan would be next on the hit list. It would also really have China's influence to be dominant within that region. It's already a dominant force, but with a lot of these other countries like Japan teaming up with the US and Taiwan, at least puts a resistance up there to make China think twice before they actually go to war with China.
Do you want me to play the clip?
Well, I will say this. I do really like the Prime Minister of Japan. She doesn't have a lot of political support in the country. There is an uprising of other parties within that country. I don't know if she'll be able to really hold on to power, but she is definitely backed by the U.S., especially when she's making comments like this, trying to keep China in line within that region. So maybe American money will continue to back her.
And from Lord Bibo, the Chinese company BYD is building a giant factory that is larger than San Francisco, 130 square kilometers. It will become the largest site in the world for the production of electric cars and vehicles.
And you can play this without any sound because there is music on this one. But This is what the Chinese are really doing. They're combining private industry with government military interests. So they make a profit on all these products, and then they can be easily converted to a wartime effort if needed. So really, private industry like BYD brings in a profit and finances the Chinese military. And it's very smart. DJI, I would say, is the best company at doing this. DJI technology goes directly into military drones. BYD, if a war did break out, they would have to convert half their production to military. That would take some time, but it would still be bringing in profit. And they have guaranteed places to sell their products, like China, like Iran, like the Middle East, like the rest of the BRICS countries. The US is really throwing billions of dollars into the military. They don't have any other way to make a profit off of that, so they operate the military at a loss. China has a different model when it comes to their military. Make money in the private sector, use that technology in the military sector. And I think it's a better strategy. And I think the United States is going to start going towards there as well. We just seen with the rare earth minerals that the military is the one financing these mines now. Those mines could potentially make a profit if there's an abundance of rare earth minerals. It's a potential for the US military to actually make a profit and bring a profit in rather than always operating at a loss.
And there is a whole video about BYD's invasion of Mexico and Latin America in this channel in English as well.
Yeah, and there's big rumors that BYD is going to be coming to Canada. I mean, it looks like Canada is really trying to play hardball with the US. I think it's a dumb idea. 80% of their trade currently goes there. Even if China steps in, they're not going to be able to fill that gap. But if they do try to fill that gap, it's going to be with BYD cars flooding the Canadian market. The cars in Canada cost an absorbent amount, and if BYD was able to come into that market without a tariff, it would absolutely dominate. They dominate here in Mexico as well. They're not the best cars. I don't like the cars, especially in cold weather countries like Russia and Canada. You're not able to put winter tires on a lot of electric cars, especially BYD cars, because it has too much traction. It kills the battery, and the batteries aren't sequenced for winter tires. Also, cold weather cuts the charge like 30 to 40% off of its normal charge. Okay, let's go into the next article, and this is going to be Candace Owens and TP USA here.
From Shadow of Ezra, Candace Owens reveals that Turning Point USA turned down UVU's offer to move the event where Charlie Kirk was taken out indoors even after receiving safety warnings.
Yeah, and we're seeing a lot of different content creators take different aspects of this, whether it's Tyler Robinson's roommate, or it's the international angle. This is just another angle that's being privately kind of investigated here, and I would like to know who turned down the offer to make this an indoor event. And now it's been confirmed that they were offered an indoor event to make this an indoor event for safety reasons. The college says they couldn't guarantee safety and security. It would have been very much a different situation if they had done this event indoor, especially considering the outdoor area was just so wide open.
And I'll just say Ali Beth Stuckey response to Candace Owens was very good today. Also, Tim Pool's was very good. But let's see what she says.
That after UVU showed them multiple options inside and outside, UVU recommended to Turning Point that they not hold the event in the amphitheater because of safety reasons. Not a good idea because we can't shut this area down. It's not a good idea because there's no control here. We cannot control the traffic, the flow of traffic coming in and out of this amphitheater. But Turning Point insisted that that was where they wanted to have the event. It was because Turning Point insisted that that event was then held outside. Now, I can tell you, having done these events, that was the first thing among many that struck me as odd, is anybody can just walk into that's the whole point of safety, is you want to make sure that these students, you're checking tickets, you have security looking at them up and down. Do they look weird? Who are we supposed to keep eyes on? This guy's weird. Let's watch this guy because he's mumbling to himself. The whole point of that, the reason why you feel safe going to a Turning Point event, is because not everybody can just walk up and sit down when they want to. Okay, you want to look people in the eye. Suddenly, that didn't matter to them. Turning Point insisted on having the event outside, despite UVU saying they communicated to them, they did not think the outside was the best idea because of safety reasons. So my question now is, which specific Turning Point employees went down and picked that venue outside? I want to know. In fact, I need to know, and I will know, right? If you know, send me a tip. But we're going to find out.
Okay, and that's
okay?
good. And the thing is, I want to know who actually turned this down. I want to hear their reasons why they turned it down. It's not necessarily saying they're guilty of anything, but it is fairly suspicious. And depending on who actually decided to turn down the offer of making this an indoor event, was it financial? Was it cheaper to have it outside at that location? What other reasons that went into determining to hold that outside? Yeah, and looking into hindsight, it's always easier to say, it was a mistake to have it outside. But Turning Point USA did have a lot of their events outside. But I do appreciate everybody kind of looking into every detail of this case. Okay, and let's go into Tucker Carlson here, and we're continuing along the thread of the rift that's happening kind of in the American First and MAGA conservative right now.
From Kaiser Rev, Tucker Carlson calls out Ben Shapiro and other Jews and Zionists for treating Nick Fuentes and others like cattle just for criticizing Israel.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily think Tucker Carlson agrees with everything with Nick Fuentes, but I think his strategy to kind of de-radicalize or not further radicalize Nick Fuentes, if Nick Fuentes hadn't been picked on by Ben Shapiro in the first place and Mark Levin and went through that cancellation because of the Daily Wire, I don't think he would have been radicalized to the extent that he was. Now that he's becoming more mainstream and the censoring is coming off him and he's welcome back onto Rumble and YouTube, you see his opinions are a lot less radical than they used to be when he used to be in the fringe spaces. Okay, let's play it.
And a child.
You want people to follow you? You want to sell your ideas to them? You want to convince them that what you're saying is true? Show some love for them. Demonstrate that you care about them. Why are we doing this? Because we think it's better for you. Shapiro and all of these guys, they don't make an effort to do that because they don't feel that way at all. Shut up, cattle. You're a Nazi. Give us the money for our preferred little country, or else we're going to denounce you. Man, those attitudes are incompatible with leadership and, in fact, with democracy itself. You can't have a country of 350 million people governed by boutique goals and concerns. I really care so much about this thing, and you better care about it too, or else I'm going to attack you and deplatform you. It doesn't work. It's illegitimate, actually. And if you keep it up, you're flirting with, real backlash, like a real one. Not Nick Fuentes, like a real one. So cool it. Listen to other people. Don't treat them like cattle. Treat them like human beings.
Okay, that's good. And I will say this, the best way to resolve this is going to be through debate. Right now, I see a lot of Christians kind of defending Israel, and they're doing a fairly good job, but you're seeing a lot of people directly from Israel, like Ben Shapiro, like Mark Levin, who's one of the big defenders, just wanting to absolutely cancel these people, shut them out, not have the debate, not have the conversation. Bring the conversation out in the open. It's all the biggest content creators that are currently kind of in this, whether it's Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, Ben Shapiro, Mark Levin. Have a live event and invite smaller streamers there to kind of stream the event without having them get dinged on YouTube for copyright or anything, and make this a big thing and kind of settle this in a public way and reunite the right again. Okay, and the next story is we're going to go into Canada a little bit. This is having to do with the mass grave hoax. A lot of people may not know what this was, but there were a lot of Indigenous tribes claiming a genocide in Canada, saying they had found 250 bodies, which they had. 215 bodies, which they had not. Well, no, it was more than 215. It was actually thousands. This was just one case of one tribe. Then tribes popped all over Canada, claiming the same thing, all these dead bodies of children, and it just wasn't there. They were using ground penetrating radar, and when they actually dug up some of these things, what they found was it was tree stumps, garbage, other things. It wasn't dead bodies, but most of these tribes refused to actually try to dig up the bodies and show what was there, because then it would have absolutely destroyed their narrative. And their narrative actually led to billions of dollars from the Canadian government being given to these tribes. And now what we're seeing are land acknowledgements turned into the taking of private property away from Canadian citizens and being given to Indigenous tribes. Private property rights are in real jeopardy in Canada. And it all kind of started with land acknowledgements and this mass grave hoax.
And the mass graves were found mostly around what used to be residential schools, which was a system in Canada which did lead to bad effects, but still.
Just asking for evidence to have to provide it. You're making the claim. Do you believe that the remains of 215 children have been found?
Yeah. You have the burden
Okay,
of
so
proof.
what evidence do you have for that?
I believe children went. Can you just let her talk and stop? Please don't interrupt. The 215 anomalies that were found in the ground.
No, that's not what it was. This is what it was. It was 215 child remains in a mass unmarked grave. Okay, so don't lie. They did not say 4.5 years ago anomalies. They said 215 child remains were found in a mass unmarked grave in Kamloops. This university continues to perpetuate that lie.
Yeah. They didn't say they were. What is the lie?
That there were no bodies found. There was no murder. There was no genocide.
No murder, no genocide. Why do you think there was a genocide? Have you talked to anybody? Can I?
Yeah, I have a PhD in the subject, by the way, but don't let that bother you.
What is the subject when it doesn't serve your narrative?
Let's just continue on.
Okay, and the internet's kind of misbehaving, but I will say this. There have been multiple documentaries made on this. I believe Lauren Southern did one. A lot of other good documentary filmmakers also have. They're all on YouTube. This has been completely debunked, but we had the highest authorities in Canada, like the government, like the university, claiming that there was a mass genocide and that these bodies were buried at these of Indigenous people at these residential schools. And it just did not happen. This was such a hoax. When I used to be a bouncer at a bar in Canada, I would ask people about this. Nobody knew that this thing was a hoax. Nobody knew that this didn't happen. Nobody knew the other side of the story. They just knew the one day the Canadian government kind of set aside in remembrance of these children, which is absolutely ridiculous because these children never died.
And this,
I mean, they eventually died, but they didn't die in the horrific way that was being claimed by these Indigenous people.
And this post was from Juno News, and it was happening at Thompson Rivers University.
Yeah, and Juno News is an absolutely amazing news agency. The main gentleman that used to run that news agency is now in Parliament in Canada. Okay, Andrea Humphrey is another absolutely amazing reporter for Rebel News. I knew her when we were in Canada. I actually worked at the art gallery for a while. She came in doing a story about an art exhibit was there. Basically, this art exhibit was if you were white, you were able to sit down and see which Yahtzee you were most likely related to. If you were not white, you were not welcome to sit down. It was absolutely crazy. She did a report on it. They wanted her out of the art gallery. I went around saying, oh, they're looking for you. You should go this way. You should go that way. But let's see what she has to say here. And I think the left's kind of going crazy on her here and trying to make it so she can't report.
So from Drea Humphrey, Kamloops is 215 unmarked graves and reporting on it.
I think independent media is like your only real media if you get. Excuse me.
Permits to film on
excuse
campus?
me, sir.
Ma'am, were you allowed permits to film on campus?
Excuse me.
Were you allowed permits to film on
I'm
campus?
in the middle of doing a report.
That's fantastic. Were you allowed a permit by the campus, by the university?
This is a public place.
Okay, and the internet seems to not be loading very well, which is not good.
I believe it's X, it's not the internet.
Okay.
Elon, make it work.
Okay, we can kind of leave it there. And I will say this, they kept getting in front of her for 2 to 3 minutes, and eventually she had to hide behind a security as they were coming from the other side, and she still did manage to do a report, but it shows the absolute gall of the left. They do not want stories like this getting out. This was one of the biggest hoax, especially on an international level, and it is really a forewarning to other countries how governments can collude with small groups to really make a false narrative if it benefits both parties.
And from Mark Nixon, David Eby and the NDP or New Democratic Party created this $500 million worth of land taken from fee simple land owners in Richmond. All of the city of Kamloops is now in question.
Okay, and we can leave the clip. I'll just kind of talk about this. This goes into the land acknowledgements they were making that turned into court cases that Indigenous tribes said they owned the land, even though private citizens in Canada had already bought the land. The government taking it from those individuals, giving it back to the tribe. Now other tribes are popping up. They're actually claiming one of the big industrial cities in Canada, that's Kamloops, that they own the entire city and all property on that city. So private property rights, I can see these cases are going to be absolutely crucial, because if this one world government kind of wants to take private property rights, the best way they have to do it is what's going on in Canada right now. So the government kind of needs to step in. I think the government actually wants this to happen. This is the quickest way towards socialism. They have the Canadian voters behind them. The Canadian voters also want socialism. If they do go the way of socialism and they go very quickly, it's going to be a warning to the rest of the world, I think, because I don't think it's going to work out very well.
And from Cosmin de Zurza, you're an old effing white man. This is indigenous land. A toddler level tantrum from a woke spaz. Thompson River University is clearly producing Canada's brightest.
Okay, let's see if we can play this one, if it will work.
You got a lot of respect, huh?
Yeah.
You got a lot of respect?
You want to talk about respect?
You want to talk about respect, you fucking white man? You're old fucking white man. That's all you are, bro. This is indigenous land, first and foremost.
Yeah, we can tell you.
I know you have. I can tell by your views, bro. I can tell by your views. Canada is indigenous. A lot of respect.
And this is the view of most Canadian people, I will say, especially in downtown environments like Toronto, like Vancouver. And then you have immigrants that are coming into the country that don't necessarily own land. So they're actually siding with the government and the indigenous people to take private property rights away. Okay, let's go into this next clip we have here. And this is from Australia.
From Catherine Deves Morgan says,
one second, why don't you close all the other boxes that we've already kind of viewed, and hopefully that will help out with the playing of the clips.
Okay, hold on then.
And yeah, okay, let's go here.
Again, from Catherine Deves Morgan, I must have missed the vote where Australians had to choose between freedom of speech and multiculturalism.
Yeah, and this is absolutely crazy. The caption on this clip is absolutely bang on. Let's see what he has to say here.
I completely acknowledge we don't have the same free speech and inverted commas laws that they have in the United States. They're different. The rules and the safeguards that we're put in to stop vilification, humiliation, racist abuse are a direct response to the multicultural community that we have built in this country and the public's desire, the civic community's desire to protect it. And in some ways, it's a precious thing. It's not something that we could just or should automatically assume is free from those kind of divisive, hate-filled public debates.
I will say this, he actually has a better position that the Canadian government has, because at least he's saying we don't have the same free speech rights as America has. Now, Canada will go on and say, oh yeah, we have free speech here, but they don't. They'll infringe on your free speech for a hate speech and all kinds of other reasons with the notwithstanding clause. But going back to that clip again, what he said there is, we don't have the same free speech laws, but you could, and the people need to start standing up and saying, we want the same free speech laws and the same constitutional free speech rights that Americans have. We're seeing all these governments on a global basis infringing on free speech. Even countries that claim to have free speech, they really don't, because they have contradicting laws that they can take away that free speech at any time that they want. So citizens around the world, after looking at the overreach of a lot of these governments, need to start standing up and say, we want constitutional protections for our free speech that can never be infringed upon. Okay, let's go into this vote with the Epstein. And this is one thing I have been disappointed with Trump on, and the Democrats have come into a treasure trove of emails, and they're hand selecting specific ones trying to demonize Trump. I don't believe a word of these false emails. They're all within 24 hours being debunked. That being said, I do want to see Trump get ahead of this. He's already behind the curve, even if he releases the documents now, but he needs to release these Epstein documents.
At MK Raju, Massey and Epstein vote. The deal for Republicans on this vote is that Trump will protect you if you vote the wrong way.
And how many Republicans do you think will vote for this on the floor?
Well, I've already had a couple Republicans tell my office privately that they're going to vote for it, and I think that could snowball. The deal for Republicans on this vote is that Trump will protect you if you vote the wrong way. In other words, if you vote to cover up for pedophiles, you've got cover in a Republican primary. But I would remind my colleagues that this vote is going to be on your record for longer than Trump is going to be president. And what are you going to do in 2028 and 2030 when you're in a debate either with a Republican or a Democrat, and they say, how can we trust you? You covered up for a pedophile back in 2025.
Yeah, and this is already starting to backfire on Trump. He needs to release these documents. I don't care what's in them. We showed a clip of RFK saying, yeah, he had been on the plane, but he explained it that he was with his wife and kids, and this was long before anything came up with Epstein. That being said, it wasn't held against RFK. I think Trump has made promises and he has friends on that list he doesn't want to burn, but it's going to absolutely hurt him in the midterms if he doesn't release these. That being said, Joe Biden was actually the person in office when this whole thing came up. The Democrats already had the option to release these files and they chose not to. This is a uniparty issue. There are so many people involved in these Epstein documents that it's going to hurt both parties. So both parties kind of don't want these things to be released. Hopefully there's enough senators that aren't on these files that will vote against their party lines and release these files. And if the conservatives want any chance in the midterms, they need to release these. Things started rifting within the conservative party when Pam Bondi said, yeah, we have thousands of documents we're going to release tomorrow. They're on my desk, and she never did. And then Kash Patel said similar things, and then other people in the administration said similar things. And Trump ran on the fact that he was going to release these documents. It's been too long. Release the documents. We want prosecutions off of these documents. There's now talk that they're going to free Ghislaine Maxwell because she's made a deal with the Trump administration. That's absolutely ridiculous. Unless she has hard files, hard videos that can corroborate her testimony that we can get convictions on, she should not be let out.
And from Tara Palmieri, even before these new Epstein-related emails leaked, I heard from a Republican House source that last night that they were starting to break ranks. They were quietly admitting that once the Epstein files Transparency Act hits the floor, it's almost impossible to vote against it, and that was even before they woke up to headlines linking Trump's name to a known victim.
Yeah, and I think whoever's going to run for president, whether that's AOC or Bernie Sanders or maybe a combination or Newsom, they're going to have to vote to release these documents because they're going to be running against a conservative. So whoever's going to run on the conservative side also needs to break from Trump and say we want to release these documents. This is going to hurt people far into the future. Trump right now, this is his last term. So maybe he's more interested in protecting his friends. I like Trump. I like a lot of things he's doing. This is one of those instances. I don't like what he's done to this point, but it's not too late to actually release the documents.
Just last night, even before all of these emails leaked out, I was hearing that House members were talking about the fact that they could not, possibly vote nay on this one once the bill was actually on the floor. So there were already Republican members starting to break ranks, and I think these emails just apply more pressure, and you can see a really desperate White House that is responding that way. I mean, the New York Times is reporting that he's calling Lauren Boebert, he's calling Nancy Mace, who is running for governor in South Carolina and would need his endorsement to clear in the primary. But he is working every angle he can to try to get them to remove their names from the discharge petition so that the bill won't come to the floor. Just last night, even before all of these emails.
I mean, this is not shaping up good for Trump, especially with the midterms coming. Clear this up. He's gonna have to burn some of his friends. If he's gonna have to do it, he's gonna have to do it. This is a big issue for the general public, and I don't know if Trump actually understands how big of an issue this is for a lot of people. Now, this was an absolutely ridiculous article I seen. It's in a different language, but why don't you just read the headline there?
From Tommy Robinson, instead of closing Europe's borders, they're creating anti-grape underwear, quote-unquote feminists style.
And let's play the video here. And this is the new chastity belt, I guess. And it's absolutely ridiculous. Imagine not having the actual resolve as a government to protect the people into your country, so much so that there are entire industries now popping up to kind of protect them from other people within the country that are not safe.
And also from Concerned Citizen, meanwhile in France, gangs of migrants are now terrorizing small French coastal towns as they maraud through the streets, attack people and police, and vandalize homes, cars, shops, and businesses.
Yeah, and to this point, they've been sending all these migrants to the cities, but now you're seeing them come outside of the cities, and governments are actually transporting them into small towns. And small towns don't have the police force, they don't have the resources. It's very much often community-based, and if a lot of people in the community actually stand up, the government and police themselves are prosecuting the normal citizens that are trying to protect their community for even standing up.
Soy español.
And we also did, that's good for that clip. And we also did see in France, a lot of migrants in these small towns were lifting each other up to go into people's houses and windows. People were coming out with baseball bats and things like that, trying to defend themselves. In one case, charges were pressed on the homeowner. Okay, and let's go into the next story here.
From Defiant Els, well, it's kind of the same story. Instead of condemning Pakistani Muslim grape gangs, former First Minister of Scotland, Humza Yousaf, claims it's disinformation and white men do most of the grapes.
Yeah, and I think it's, don't play it yet, but I think it's going to come down to the government's going to push the citizens of these countries so far. The citizens are going to eventually stand up and probably burn down these migrant hotels and maybe even these military bases that they're putting the migrants in. They're absolutely fed up, the citizens are, and the government saying, no, we're not taking any more illegal citizens. And the reason they're not is they're labeling all these illegal citizens as legal migrants now, and they can't get them out of the country legally. We've seen what Trump did. Trump is able to actually address the issue, and citizens in the EU are demanding the same. And their politicians are only giving lip service, really refusing to do anything or take any real action that's going to lead to consequence.
First of all, the disinformation that is being spread about Muslims and Pakistanis, I'm afraid, is only going to get worse. Unless we are, in fact, to counter it, we have to be proactive.
And he says that the mis and disinformation is only going to get worse. I don't know if it is, because the top story we had tonight is Ursula von der Leyen's new spy agency in the EU. And one of the big targets is disinformation. They're going after the citizens. They're going after social media. They've now changed the law within the EU. So they are offering social media companies all their citizens' data in return for some power when it comes to censorship. And these corporations want to train their AI models, so they want that data.
It's going to get worse. And you can already hear the commentary among some when it comes to the, for example, inquiry on grooming gangs. Never forgetting the point, of course, that the vast majority of sexual offences that are committed against children are committed by the white community, not by the British Pakistani community. But there's not been a national inquiry into that. Don't get me wrong, where there's systemic failures, where people have covered things up, that should absolutely be exposed and lessons should be learned. But let's be clear.
Okay, that's good. We can go to the next clip there. And yeah, it's just at all levels, it's a systemic failure to actually do the citizens' will. The citizens are electing these people in to kind of take care of these problems, and no problems are being taken care of. They're being exacerbated at this point. And there's multiple levels of government. You have your individual country's government, and then you have these unelected bureaucrats that are running the EU that are pushing these policies down the throat of the citizenry.
From Sharon, polygamy is illegal in Australia, so how is this allowed? Centrelink paying multiple spouses of Islamic families. Centrelink refuses to collect data on polygamous marriages under Islamic law, supposedly to save taxpayers money.
And this is what I'm talking about, a failure at every single level. The government's refusing to get rid of these people. They're welcoming more in. They're giving them mass benefits, and then they're giving them double and triple the benefits. If this continues on, you're going to see a lot of Western families and a lot of people in these countries take 2 and 3 wives just to get the extra benefits.
You can't do that. Just letting you know.
Centrelink is reportedly paying multiple spousal benefits to Islamic families with 2 or 3 wives. According to News Corp, the welfare agency has revealed it.
And pause it for just a sec. I'll continue to talk once it comes back up. But this also had happened in Sweden a few months ago. We had a story of this where the news went out to a Muslim's house, asked him about his wife and his benefits he was getting, and he just volunteered, well, yeah, I get benefits here, and then the government also gave me a second house next door to house my second wife. So they're not only getting monetary benefits, they're actually getting multiple houses for multiple families.
You're not getting multiple houses.
Maybe one.
Refuses to collect data on polygamous marriages under Islamic law. Officials say the payments are intended to save taxpayers money by avoiding the more expensive sole parent pension. Current rules also allow for second wives to claim multiple family tax benefit payments for children living under the same roof. Centrelink is reporting.
Okay, that's good. And we'll go right into the next story here.
From Cali Means, my jaw dropped when I saw this number. More than 50% of government spending in the U.S. goes to healthcare, yet they have the lowest life expectancy in the developed world.
Yeah, if 50% of government spending is going towards healthcare and they don't have socialized medicine, they're spending a lot of money. This is lining a lot of people's pockets. I don't necessarily believe in socialized medicine, but if you're spending that much money, you expect all the healthcare needs of the nation to be taken care of. Instead, they have a completely corrupted and bloated system where the citizens aren't getting the healthcare that they deserve, and industries are just absolutely overcharging the insurance companies are absolutely overcharging the government, creating this cycle of unlimited spending.
When you add up federal spending, when you add up Medicare, Medicaid, what Social Security payments go to healthcare, the military expenditure on healthcare, the interest on the debt for healthcare, it's 50% of U.S. spending. We spend 4 times more than European countries per capita on healthcare, and we are living 7 years less. That point was made again and again and again. And you have right now the Democrats look.
Yeah, they spend 4 times more and they live 7 years less than the European Union, which is absolutely crazy.
At that and saying, all we need to do is give more money to insurance companies. All we need to do is put more money into this broken system. And the Trump administration, Secretary Kennedy and his team is saying, how do we reform this system fundamentally to profit from hospital beds being empty instead of full, to profit when people go off pharma drugs, not keep taking them, to profit when people get healthy. That's the foundational question the Trump administration is inviting the American people and policymakers to have, and the Democrats are nowhere to be found.
Yeah.
When you add up federal spending.
And we did see during the government shutdown that the light was kind of shined on these insurance companies and how much they are overcharging. And Trump was then suggesting that individual citizens, the money should go directly to them into healthcare accounts that can only be spent on healthcare, but the citizens should have the decision where it goes. This would encourage competition amongst insurance companies. They have to do something, and I really hope President Trump follows through on that, and this just wasn't some kind of threat to the Democrats to get them to reopen the government.
And from Lee Zeldin, visited a brand new state-of-the-art $4 billion nuclear steel facility yesterday in West Virginia, where the ground has been broken and cranes are everywhere.
Yeah, and all this investment money that was coming because of the tariff could stop if they reverse the tariff. So Trump's plan of putting the tariff up, bringing manufacturing back to the United States, it's actually happening, and it's happening really quickly, but it's still going to take a couple years by the end of his term. The thing is, if he loses the midterms and he loses the Supreme Court hearing against the tariffs, it's going to throw a major monkey wrench into Trump's plans.
Rob, this is a $4 billion project here in West Virginia. And as we were arriving and the initial slides and presentation, they were putting up all these numbers for their facilities across the country. Hundreds of millions here, hundreds of millions of dollars spent here, hundreds of millions of dollars spent there, and $4 billion spent here. So when I was at West Memphis, Arkansas recently, I had a conversation with you about the groundbreaking for a $4 billion project for a data center. I've seen it in Cheyenne, Wyoming. I've seen it in Idaho Falls, Idaho, whether it's nuclear.
And a lot of this money is coming into the middle of the country, the forgotten regions of the country, like Montana, like West Virginia. These people were forgotten, and to have a major manufacturing or mining facility open, it really, really helps, much more than it helps in New York or Los Angeles.
It's data centers. What we're going to see right here is a state-of-the-art, world's best steel manufacturer that is going to not just be producing all of the jobs for this area, but tens of billions of dollars of an impact. And so many other industries coming to West Virginia. We're just at Toyota before we came here, where they're investing in a massive expansion of their West Virginia site, and they'll be relying on Nucor steel. So this investment, this isn't like
And when I do talk to a lot of liberals, they say, yeah, this money is supposed to be coming, but it's not actually getting there. But it is. You're seeing factories actually in Canada shut down, move to the United States, and these are billion-dollar facilities, hundred of million-dollar facilities, whether it's in chips, whether it's in mining, whether it's in automotive. I mean, this could be a real revival of not just the Midwest, but the entire United States, and it would put them on equal footing with China if they can get manufacturing back. Okay, let's go in. Oh, I will say one more thing, and that is, you're saying they're bringing all this manufacturing back, but who's going to do this? Probably a lot of robots, but you're having a lot of immigrants being pushed out of the United States, so there's less workers overall. So workers could work hand in hand with robotics to actually have high-paying jobs and really show how it could be done.
However, from Shadow of Ezra, Ben Shapiro is now openly supporting the great replacement of U.S. citizens with immigrants on H-1B visas. And Trump has been getting a lot of flack for the comments he made, talking positively about H-1B visas and negatively about how much American workers can do.
Well, and this is just another thing. Now, I've been pretty hard on Ben Shapiro lately. With this rift that's going on, I definitely land on the other side. That being said, he sounds like a straight up leftist here, talking about we need more immigration, we need more H-1B visas. Trump's doing a fairly good job on making harder regulations on the H-1B visas. So let's see what Ben had to say here.
There are, in fact, certain positions in the United States that require a level of expertise that may not be reachable in the numbers that are currently being churned out by American universities. That is a shortcoming of our educational system, and it is a problem. And so you can say we should up our game. I agree. We should absolutely up our game educationally. But in the meantime, if you do not bring in the labor supply, particularly to tech, tech will go find the labor supply. And so what you'll end up with is an office that was employing 30 Americans and 3 H-1B visa people. If the costs grow too high, simply moving to another country where they hire 30 Indians and 0 Americans. Right, this is the problem. The reason companies offshore is not because it's easy or fun to simply move your company somewhere else. It's because the labor cost becomes so prohibitive in the United States that companies move away.
And we're seeing all these companies actually move back into the United States because of the threat of tariffs. So Trump's plan's actually working. Ben Shapiro's saying these companies are going to leave. No, a matter of fact, the opposite is currently happening.
Try to tariff them back, but all that does is artificially raise the price on Americans. Again, we're talking about affordability. There are trade-offs in economics. Autarky comes with the fun feeling that everybody in America is making American product. It comes with the very large downside that your products are economically inefficient, they don't work as well, and you're not globally competitive. Okay? All policies have trade-offs. It is also better for the American people, broadly speaking, to bring in the best from other countries. Now, how do you determine the best? You can make, again, the case that the H-1B visa program is fatally flawed. It's not bringing in enough of the best. I will point out that many of our best founders in the United States are either immigrants or the children of immigrants who came in on H-1B visas.
And I would say the education system is failing the U.S. right now, and they need to focus on that and create the best. Okay, that's good for Ben there. We'll go into the last 3 articles before we're done. Also, I just thought, oh, yeah, we can just go into this article.
Okay. From Jim Ferguson, Elon Musk says it's a giant money laundering scheme. During his latest remarks, Elon Musk dropped one of the most explosive claims yet about political corruption, NGO fraud, and stolen identities.
Okay, and we'll go down to the clip here, and he put it fairly well here.
You said the other day you uncovered some evidence that there was massive Social Security fraud and that arrests were imminent. Yes. What can you tell us about that? And what can you tell us about what you've seen politicians do to make massive amounts of money off of the federal government, like Nancy Pelosi? Please.
Yes. So we've encountered there's really so much more. It's deciding what should be prosecuted first, because it's such a long list. You have to actually prioritize the list. We convey the list to the Department of Justice. The DOJ has a process that they go through to review and think about it. The wheels of justice turn slowly. In fact, obviously, I have a maniacal sense of urgency. So to me, when I see that terrible fraud has happened, I'm like, why haven't we arrested someone already? But as the saying goes, the wheels of justice turn slowly but surely. And I think probably the person that stole 400,000 Social Security numbers, at least, maybe more, will be arrested hopefully this week. With respect to the non-governmental organizations, these sort of fake NGOs, I think there needs to be a number of arrests in that regard as well, because these are fake charities where mostly Democrats, I don't want to be clear, there's sometimes a little bit of Republican in there, because they sometimes throw the Republicans a bone to say, hey, be quiet about this. So that's where you start getting the uniparty thing going on. But it is overwhelmingly to Democrats, and they give give billions of dollars to NGOs run by Democrats that then go through a whole network of additional NGOs. It's a giant money laundering scheme. Really, at this point,
and we do see George Soros able to get NGO money through grants from the government to actually fund the Democrats themselves, making it extremely hard to kind of run against them. Luckily, USAID has been taken down, and it's going to be harder to do that in the next elections. Okay, we'll go through these last two clips here really quick.
From American AF, the founder of the Weather Channel says that CNN has been lying about climate change.
Yeah, the last two clips are going to do with climate change and the climate hoax that's kind of been going on. It's not to say we don't care about the environment, but it's to say they're trying to set up a whole new economic scam, and so they can choose the winning countries, the losing countries, and kind of rig the economy around this, whether it's climate credits. Let's just go into it.
I resent you calling me a denier. That is a word meant to put me down. I'm a skeptic about climate change, and I want to make it darn clear, Mr. Kennedy is not a scientist. I am. He's the CEO of the Weather Channel now. I was the founder of the Weather Channel, not the co-founder.
And I'm glad you did, because I am addicted to the Weather Channel. I watch a lot of cable news.
Now, hold on just a minute. I'm not done. And CNN has taken a very strong position on global warming that it is a consensus. Well, there is no consensus in science. Science isn't a vote. Science is about facts. And if you get down to the hard, cold facts, there's no question about it. Climate change is not happening. There is no significant man-made global warming now. There hasn't been any in the past, and there's no reason to expect any in the future. There's a whole lot of baloney. And yes, it has become a big political point of the Democratic Party and part of their platform. And I regret it's become political instead of scientific. But the science is on my side.
Yeah, and that's very interesting. So let's go into the last clip. That was a little bit of an older clip, but he put it fairly well. And he was the founder of the Weather Channel.
And it was nice to see Potato Brian Stelter put in his place.
That's back when he was young.
Yes. Well, he never looked young. He always looked like a potato with beard. Just a potato. From Christian Collins, Nancy Pelosi to President Trump, climate change is not a scam. You are the con job. You are the scam.
Yeah, and I feel like I was stuttering like Nancy was in this clip, but it's time for her retirement. And she is retiring. Her daughter seems to be coming in to take her place and her political power spot. Nancy Pelosi is the center of the Democratic Party, and they still want to try to feed this climate hoax. I don't think this climate hoax would have worked as well if the jibby jab era hadn't come up. Follow the science. The science is never wrong. And this is what they were saying during that era. And people started saying, well, science never has a real consensus. It's constantly evolving. And then they realized the same things they were saying about the jibby jab era. They were kind of bringing over those same arguments when it came to climate.
That reminds me of how the president has projected his own characteristics onto this. He's a big projector. You know, he'll say people are this or people are that, when it's really himself he's talking about. And he has said of this, when we were at Climate Week, many of us were at Climate Week a few weeks ago in New York, he pronounced that during Climate Week that this was a con job. This is a scam. No, Mr. President, you are projecting again. You are the con job. You are the scam.
And that being said, that speech he gave at the UN in New York City, that's what she's talking about, Climate Week. I don't know what she's talking about there, but it was that speech Donald Trump gave at the UN. And he not only gave that speech in front of the world leaders, but he started behind the scenes taking away a lot of the funding for this climate hoax that the United States was providing. And now we're seeing leaders like Bill Gates kind of come out and go against everything they had said previously. So I think as it goes on, we kind of reported yesterday that they're trying to shift the money that they were spending on this climate hoax into jibby jabs, vaccines, and healthcare, as well as surveillance online. So that's the next thing to kind of look for, because if they have money and funding to put into those areas, and and the only way for them to get money and funding for that is to take it from another area like this climate hoax. Okay, thanks for tuning in. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. Sorry I went on a little bit earlier today. I had an appointment and I think I got to get to it now. So I'll see you tomorrow.